Hello, everybody. I want to jump into the topic. This is Real Talk with Rev, which is a monthly vlog I do on our church channel for TCI. And today I want to talk to you, coming for you for the month of March, about two wolves. There's two wolves out there in each of you. There's two wolves in me, and there's two wolves in you. I want you to look right now at yourself. Which wolf are you feeding? And there is the good wolf, who's strong and powerful and helps you get through all the obstacles you go through in life, who is the strength to give you that ability to go forward, right? And take one step at a time through all the adversities. But there's that wolf also that just wants to tear and destroy, and it's vindictive, and it's mad, and it's angry, and it's and do you see the face I'm making when I'm even discussing the names of it? I look angry, I look mad, and I started to talk it, and I was tensing, and my hands are, because it's the bad, it's the darkness. The good wolf is strong. Someone, most of you guys know my nickname from the streets. I've had a few nicknames in my life, but one of my nicknames was the Beast. It's tattooed right there. It actually says the Irish. There's an Irishman, a fighting Irishman. The Irish Beast. That name used to instill fear into my competitors on the drug trade. If I was negotiating quantities, dollars per kilos, per tonnage, things like that, my name was everything. It scared my business partners and clients enough because of what I did to make my name make people think twice. Okay? So that was a bad beast. Scary beast. Now, flash forward. That was just for a small portion of my life. That was me. The rest of my life, all these last decades that I've spent serving humanity, changing myself, failing, succeeding, failing, succeeding, failing, always striving, always getting better. It's finally allowed me to see what that lesson was all about that I learned as a young boy about the two wolves. It's really talking about good or evil, God or the devil. Spiritual aspect, the Bible tells us there's a devil, there's a God. And in all faiths, if you talk about the Quran, again, there's the dark spirits. There are different faiths, talk about the demons. Other faiths, all Bible included, we all talk about, like, there's angels, and there's a good God, and then there's demons, dark angels, and there's a bad God, right? The devil, different names for these characters. And I say characters. See, I've personally died 3 times. And heaven's not what I was raised in a Christian Judeo household, what I interpreted. Or what my friends who are Muslim, or my friends who are Hindu, or my friends who are Buddhists, or any other faith, my Taoist friends out there. It's not what any of us really thought. It's different. So that's the first thing. I have a first-hand experience, not a book knowledge. And what was interesting in my lessons that I learned from that experience of passing on and then coming back is simply this. God and the devil are you. Right now you're looking at my face. I am God, and I am the devil. I know some of you guys and my critics are going to be like, he just did it, he said he's God. Little g, right? Little g, God, big G, the great consciousness. We are co-creators. My faith was brought up in a Christian Judeo faith for a good portion, the first decade and a half of my life. And then I started to expand my consciousness at an early age due to my mentors. And here's what's interesting. I learned that I am a co-creator. Jesus said I would go on to do greater things than he did. He raised dead. He did all these things, right? How do you accomplish that? Well, you raise the dead all day long. I just got a new guy in one of our ministry houses at Jonathan's Refuge. I was told this man has a problem taking bathing, and he doesn't like to brush his teeth often. And I kind of chuckle because at our organization we have programs that I've designed from experience to help change people like this. This guy, not only does he bathe every day with no one saying a word, this man is becoming a grown man. He's out there now exercising because he sees this cripple exercising with this heart problem that should keep you permanently sitting in a chair all day and night. And he sees me pushing it and hitting the weights and getting out there and getting into the gym and trying to figure out how I can fight the next battle. And this man is changing. He's changing because he wants to raise his consciousness. And he's realizing if you feed the good wolf instead of the bad wolf. Sometimes the bad wolf, we feed it because all we're getting from people around us is bad. Sometimes you got to plug your ears like this and just say, yeah, okay, now the only thing I can hear is what I'm saying and thinking. And sometimes you have to shut everybody out to get to that point in your life so that you can focus on the good wolf. For me, sometimes it's really simple. I want you to seriously think about this. I love a speech Matthew McConaughey gave about. He actually talked about this in his speech. It was one of his million points talking about the good wolf and the bad wolf. And he didn't go too in-depth on it. But he said something about the speech. He was talking about a man who makes a choice and a decision to cheat on his wife. And this goes for a man and a woman and woman and man and woman and woman and man and man. It doesn't matter. If you are in a relationship and you are married to someone, the other person you are married to is a covenant. Okay? And he talks about how this person, goes and enjoys sex. He fed the bad wolf. He's married. He's in covenant with a person. He's agreed to spend the rest of his life with this one person. And he broke that covenant. He fed the bad wolf because there's this hot lady who is like, wow. And he's like, I'm married. And she's like, I don't care. And he's like, good, me either. And so they both, at this moment in time in history, fed the bad wolf. Well, he didn't know next week that he'd be sitting with his wife at parent-teachers conference, one row up from the woman sitting with her husband and them all being right next to each other. Awkward. How about you feed the good wolf? And how about you say, I'm married happily, and I appreciate the offer. Or not even get to yourself in that position. It's about feeding the good wolf. I'm on a freeway, right? Here I am, I'm driving down, someone cuts me off. Real simple. What's the option for Rev, right? We all know what I'd do. I'd take off, cut them off, stop them on a freeway, get out, smash a window, drag them out of a window, and proceed to rearrange their lifestyle. And definitely change their mindset about ever doing that to another person, because you never know who you're going to do it to. I always love that story about Paul Gambino. Paul Gambino, that's funny. Paul's last name Costello. Paul was Big Paul, the godfather of the Gambino crime family before John Gotti took it over. And the Irish, we used to do a lot of work for that crew. And Big Paul was driving on a road, and he got cut off. And he got cut off by a bunch of teenage boys, 17, 18-year-old boys, 19-year-old boy in the car. Another one I think was like 20, so just boys, young boys. And they cut him off and proceeded to call him a bunch of names. Old man was one of them, but there was a lot I won't remind to say. And so Paul just took down the license plate number. And of course, this is the godfather of not only the Gambino crime family, but he's also the chairman of the crime syndicate, or known as oh my gosh, I just blanked on it. That's hilarious. Anyways, he was the chairman of the board. So that meant all the other crime families, he's on this family and the 5 seats that they all have, and this guy's the big dog. And these punks just made the wrong person. So he calls a couple friends, says, I need you to take care of this for me. And of course they just get on their connections, and a cop runs the stuff for him, and the cop calls him back up and says, yeah, here's the guy's addresses, here's their homes, here's their names. And so they sent some underlings in the mob to go pick these boys up and bring them to Paul's house personally. And of course, on the way there, not to touch him or hurt him, but to let him know who Paul Castillo was, who he's, the head of the Gambino crime family, and he's on the commission, and he's the head of the commission, all these things. And the boys get there, man, they're pissing their pants. And he says, hey, you never know who you're going to do this to. And that was my mindset. I wanted to make sure people realize there's scary people out there. I'll flip you off. Well, good. I'll pull over and snap your arm in half in front of your family and see how you like that. But you can't do that. I'll do whatever I want. Again, the bad wolf in me. The good wolf, guy cuts me off now. God bless you. Maybe you got to get somewhere. Maybe your mom's dying and you only have a half hour to get to the hospital. So I'm going to just assume there's a major need for you to cut me off, flip me off, throw your soda out the window, whatever it is you did. I'm going to assume there's a major need in your life right now that has to get you there so fast. Now, you and me both know it's probably not true. But this is how I can process it. My wife likes to say, maybe they have an ingrown toenail. And of course, I always like to say, well, you know what, baby? Then I'm tweezers and I want to, or I'm scissors and I want to clip that toenail. So the moral of the story is, who wins? Does the devil win? Does God win? I don't know. That is for you to determine. Who are you going to feed? God or the devil? Are you going to feed the light in your life, or are you going to feed the darkness in your life? It actually just boils down to that. See, when I fed the darkness, I hung out with dark people. I have nightmares to this day of my associations with these people. My closest friends to this day is a man who I've talked to about many times. He's retired from the cartel now, but he was my contact there. Scary man. The things I saw, participated, things that I, again, can't legally talk about. So when you're feeding the darkness, you're going to be around dark people. That's why when you see somebody who, when they come to our refuge and they've been running and gunning and they're getting out of prison and it's like, stop. One of the things we teach them is stop. Stop going back to hang out with the same old friends, the same old people, the same old path. You have to make a shift in your consciousness. You have to change your state and say, I'm not going to go over here to this town, because in this town I was a drug dealer, a drug addict, a kingpin, a pimp, a prostitute. I was a bone breaker, whatever it was. I was a hitman. You go back to that town, you go back to that place without the strength and the tools and knowledge and experience of having gotten over this somewhere else, most of the time you fail. So we try to get guys to stop going back to that old place, the old people, because that's all bad. What did they do for you? Well, they're my best friends. They've been with me. Yeah, your best friends who watched you become a drug addict. Doesn't sound like a best friend. If a best friend lets you become a drug addict, they're not your best friend. But that's my dad. If your dad lets you turn into what you're at and never helped stop it, I'm sorry. He is nothing more than the donor who donated sperm to a female who let you be born. Do you know how many men I have in my care who have fathers and dads? There's a difference, in my opinion. One worked for 5 to 20 minutes to create you. The other one has spent a lifetime trying to help mold you to be the best version that you are. Feed the good side. Now, I had these friends, cartel, violent. It was really interesting taking my wife back to meet some of these people. I'm honestly, I was concerned. Every time I go back to that region, I am concerned, because what if some young punk thinks, hey, if I can whack this guy, right? He had a cool name. He gets some props in the street world, and there's no lie to that. That's truth. So I have concerns. But my kind of people back in the day was always, no women or children and innocence people were always kind of supposed to be on the side. And if you and me had a problem and you want to take me out, fine, or vice versa. That's life. We signed up for that. That's it. But I'm going back to meet this kind of people, that kind of mindset, and I'm taking my beautiful wife. And How do you explain that, right? Like, this is one of my best friends. I know that he went to prison for chopping a man's head off. But that was 30 years ago. He's a great guy. He really is. I know they said he probably killed 200 or 300 people and stuff, but I'm serious. This man made a change. He really did. And I'm not joking. This guy actually, he listened to me. He made a change in his life. He didn't understand how to leave that world. I left it. I showed him a path that it's actually okay to change and that it's the best thing we can do. And we got to sow good seed because, brother, we've been sowing bad seed our whole life. And he's an older man who spent his entire life, we're talking, gosh, almost 60 years of being a violent, ruthless killer, torturer. Man. But you can change. And God will help you do it. And so will I. Because we're going to show you how to feed the good wolf. You still need the wolf. You see, the beast is still here. The Irish beast is still here. There's a difference. This guy now, here's what I'm fighting for. I'm fighting for a man named Dante in one of my men's homes. That is a home of hope. I'm fighting for another man in my organization, Jacinto. I'm fighting for another man who's trying to become an owner in a trucking company that we've just launched. I am fighting, but I'm fighting to take men and women and make them stronger and wiser and faster and more efficient and change their state, show them, then we can change our status. We're no longer a drug addict, a pimp, a prostitute, a hoodlum, a scoundrel, a rapist, whatever it is you did. It doesn't matter because we changed our state. And now we get to change our status. What do you want your status to be? I don't know about you, man, but I did that life. And at the time, in certain times of it, I said it was great. And I can't regret any of it. Everything I've done has made me who I am right now at this moment. But I'm going this way. And it's pointed forward and up at all times. Now I fall, but I'm feeding the good wolf. So the good wolf says, "Rah! I'm going to help you, buddy. Let's go." And it helps me and it gives me that inspiration. And it is showing me to focus on God, good, light, love, not the devil, the darkness, dismal, explosive, violent. No. None of that looks good when I was even saying it on my face, looking at the monitor. But love and light and beauty. And I want to stop. I want to look at making a decision and say, wait a second. See, I've had sex with another person when I was married. Not to my current wife before everybody starts going, did you hear he said he had sex without you? Previous marriage, whole nother world. I was horrible. My wife was horrible. We both were bad. We were doing a lot of things we shouldn't have done. We were feeding the darkness. And that darkness does get you eventually. It really does. And so that's the point today of this simple real talk message. Stop this crap about feeding the darkness. But I've been doing this my whole life. You don't know. Shut up. Tell yourself to shut up. Just stop yourself. Control yourself. Do you really allow a family member to control you? Do you allow that driver coming down the street right now to go ahead and control you? You don't even know who they are. And you're going to spend the next 4 hours of your day bitching and moaning and complaining about the driver who cut you off and rolled his window down and flipped you off. And half of your workday is going to be messed up because of them. They own you. Listen to me. It got under my skin. It made me furious when I found that out. That I was spending half of my day complaining, griping, moaning about all the problems that everyone around me did. Until one day, a woman walked into my life. A woman that I wasn't looking for. I was not looking for a wife, ever again. And she said, hey, you know we can live a more positive life. And I'm like, listen, lady, you don't know me. My name is JB. They call me Mr. Positive. And she goes, well, that's wonderful. Well, I am Mrs. Positive, and I make you look like a negative nanny. And she did. And she has elevated my ability to be more positive. She is helping me as I am helping her. And that love for each other wants to make us grow. Are we perfect? Oh my God, no. Come and listen to us talk about marriage counseling. Woo! It's a beauty. But we're striving, we're going forward and upward in a positive motion because we're feeding the good, not the bad. Don't allow people to own you, including your past. But I was a drug dealer, or she says I was a prostitute. What man's going to want me? Oh my Lord, if I could share with you some of the people that I know personally who were actual prostitutes, hooking on the street, turning tricks, which means a guy or a gal turning them, having sex with them, about 5 minutes to 15 minutes. Most people don't realize that. Okay, we're talking about sex. In America, the average person has sex for about 5 minutes. That's the average. So a prostitute between 5 to 15 minutes can, and some of these girls were 3, 4, 5, 6 guys an hour sometimes, just moving down like an assembly line. And she was a friend of mine, and she's dead, and I don't mention her name, but she gave me permission to speak of this over years ago, and it really impacted people. She met me at a young age, and she was at an age where she was ready to change. In her early 20s, having had sex with, she thought, somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 5,000 or 6,000 men, and about somewhere between 500 and a 600-ish of women. And the things that she had done, the acts, and she thought nobody could ever love her. And she'd been feeding the bad wolf. And I was preaching this message about there's a good wolf and a bad wolf, the darkness, the light, God, the devil. It was at a Christian church, so it was about God and Satan. But the Christian belief system sometimes doesn't want to allow us to think I am God inside of me and the devil. That's actually, people say that's not right. But it's biblical, actually. I can show you the Bible where it's there. But here's what's interesting. This woman, who was a bona fide hooker to the fullest degree, drug addict, prostitution, no family left in her life. And she was beautiful. I want you to hear this, by the way. Physically, when you looked at her, you were like, man, you're gorgeous. But again, 5,000 or 6,000 men, 500, 600 women, drugs, all the things she's done. Who's going to want that? She heard my message about forget the past. You can stop all of that by just looking forward and saying, I'm not going to allow my past, my memory, my old person to keep reminding me of my faults. Instead, I'm going to focus on my future. And I turn and look and say, but I'm so grateful for all of my past. I was grateful for the violence I committed physically, the kneecaps I broke. I am grateful for all of these experiences. I didn't say I was grateful I did them. I didn't say I was grateful they got done. I said I am grateful for all that I did as an experience because it's made me who I am. And I was able to turn myself around in a direction and take all of that and be grateful for it instead of whining about it. Be grateful for the man at 7 years old who beat my face until it was shattered. I'm so grateful for that experience that I can now turn into good. And I can feed the light. And I can help others get through it like I've done it. Listen to me. This lady changed her life. I never knew it. Years later, I meet her at the same church I came back to preach at. She tells me her testimony. She tells me her story. Of course, the church, everyone's weeping. First off, she's married. She's a teacher. She's actually a teacher. And she's actually working at a local community college. Now, unfortunately, age caught up, health, and she didn't pass too young, but not too old. And it was a tragedy, people said, but not at her funeral. No, I would not let one person say it was a tragedy. There's no tragedy. She lived for years after she had changed her life. She had married. She had no ability to have children. So they adopted children from a couple different countries, from babies. And then they're like, wait a second, what about those kids that no one wants? And she's thinking, like me, a prostitute that no one wants. And then her and her husband got this great idea, and what did they do? They went and said, well, we want to start an orphanage. Well, they wouldn't let it happen because she had been a prostitute. She had been arrested for prostitution more times than probably I was arrested for fighting, and there was a lot. So instead of saying, it's not going to work, I can never do it because I'm a felon and I was an ex-prostitute, you know what she did? She said, hey, you know something? JB once said, you can do anything if you believe. I have belief that we were meant to do this. So they did. They found a way. They couldn't accomplish it in America at first. They couldn't. So they went to a couple countries that said, yes, you guys want to put your money and you want to build an orphanage. And they did. And they were going to use it to show America that they had done this and that this woman should not be held responsible for her past forever. And that she has shown that she's changed her ways. She has lived for decades a good life. And she can offer a society a gift inside of her. And so she and her husband built this cool little orphanage. It was a small house, but it went and they hired the staff and they were involved in it. And they made sure that these children were raised beautifully. And the children they went for were the ones that no orphanage wants. Everyone wants the little cute baby, right? Nobody wants the kid who's 13 with pimples and the girl who's going through puberty who's just moody and always hateful and the kid who thinks he's like, yeah, man, I know what I'm doing. They don't want those kids. Well, this family found a niche and created some great programs. I have, in my opinion, zero to do with any of that. That was all them. All I did was deliver a message that I knew I needed to speak that day. And this person, I fed light and life. And this person who was so dark heard that a dark person like myself with a past can change and can move forward in a positive upward motion. So I love you guys. I love the fact that we are not perfect and we never will be. That's why I call myself a knucklehead. I'm knucklehead number one. My wife is Cece. She likes to call herself, what does she call herself? Mama Knucklehead. She says, I'm Mama Knucklehead. And all of the guys and gals that are knuckleheads in our outfits, we love you guys. And know something. We're always here for you. If you need a mentor, call us, reach out to us. We have staff throughout the U.S. and in 2 different countries. We have psychologists on staff. We have some of the best and brilliant minds out there. So if you have an issue and you're like, I just can't figure out how to get over this, give us a call, reach out to us, email us. Our contact information, if you go to the very bottom of the page, I'm pretty sure it's got like all the YouTube and the emails and all that contact info. I love you guys. God bless. Live positive. Real Talk with Rev. Feed the good wolf, not the bad wolf, baby. Or bow wow wow.